You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thanks so much for joining me here today on our Training Thursday. And oftentimes we like to mix in some Toxic Thursdays as well. And that's exactly what today's show is going to bring you. I figured that it's in the news, it's happening right now, and you most likely already heard about it. So I don't want you to get misinformation around this topic. I want to make sure that you do understand exactly what's going on. And it's something that in the naturopathic world and in the natural health world, we've been talking about this for decades, and here's why. There is a specific pesticide being used. It's a chemical in the environment, and it's on the majority of the fruits, vegetables, as well as grains that you or your children may be consuming. For example, Cheerios alone is one of the number one products that this is sprayed for. And when you understand that, you can begin to see how we are being poisoned from a very young age. This is not my thoughts. These are not my opinions. I'm bringing you directly what the research shows you. And I will not only quote all of the research, but I will link it up for you as well. For example, the Cheerios that I was just speaking about has over 1,125 parts per billion in terms of this pesticide called glyphosate. It is most commonly referred to as Roundup or Ready Roundup, being used by the company known as Monsanto. Now, I'm not the first person to talk about this, and it's my job simply to relay to you exactly what's going on. This first quote is taken from CNN News. Again, this is not me. I'm not promoting CNN News, of course, because I have no agenda. My agenda is to bring you the truth. But we've been talking about this for so long, and people do not see a difference between buying organic and buying conventional. Well, organic food, they use certain types of organic pesticides. Some of them do include copper. I'm not denying that. But what they don't include is a chemical so powerful that even the World Health Organization now believes that it is a cancer-causing carcinogen. And that takes a lot for them to stand up against a behemoth of a company. Well, here's why. This happened just last week, that the first court decision was made awarding a man, I would like to give his name to you now, Dwayne Johnson, 2 young sons, and was given a terminal cancer diagnosis. His actual case was sped up into the court because in California, I believe, I will link up the article, that there is a way to expedite trials for those that are terminally ill. Well, how did he become terminally ill? The jury agreed, and so did the judge, that it was directly as a result of him spraying the Roundup weed killer. Again, this is what they spray on your crops, on your plants that you're eating. He sprayed this for, I believe he said, 20 to 30 times per year. Well, he was exposed to this. Usually, people spraying your food, and you'll see this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. Remember, in The Rain Barrel Effect, I give you the top 10 toxins that we know lead to some type of dis-ease of the body. And in Dwayne Johnson's case, he was exposed to it. And then when he became exposed to it, he didn't have that hazmat suit on, is that he got cancer. He got, I believe, multiple types of cancer, with one of them being non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And this jury, who understood that this is directly as a result of him spraying this chemical pesticide, led to his cancer, and they're hoping now that the jury, the actual payout of $289 million, which goes to his cancer-based treatments and to his children, who will unfortunately most likely have to grow up without their dad, which, saying that right now is really powerful for me, because it's a ridiculous thing that any child should have their parent taken from them because of something that we know is so harmful that it can cause cancer. And not only that, when we spray it all over our food and we don't educate people about it, because you know what? They don't get sick the first time after eating it. But what's happening is this. It's building up inside of people's systems, right? It's filling up their rain barrel. And as it begins to fill up, it shows up in numerous ways. Inflammation, digestive-based issues, IBS, autoimmune conditions, etc. Because what's happening is the pesticide, so the pesticide goes into the body. Basically, a pesticide kills bugs. Well, what they don't look at and they don't understand, meaning conventional medicine and meaning, these different pharmaceutical-based companies, and they say that they're safe. Well, the problem is this. It's always a cascade-based effect. Unless the poison is so strong that it kills you immediately, we don't see it. It's a slow poisoning of the body. It's a slow filling up of the rain barrel. If we take in a pesticide that we know kills bacteria in our gut, good bacteria in our gut, well, what else could that lead to? Well, think about it. 70 to 80% of your entire immune system lines the intestinal wall. It's made up of bacteria. And if we lose that or it becomes imbalanced, I see it in my clinical practice all the time, we see all of the symptoms of disease. You name it. Autoimmune-based issues such as rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, all sorts of issues with MS. We're looking at sarcoidosis. We're looking at mood-based disorders. We're looking at learning-based disabilities in children. We're looking at greater levels of autism in society. Can we pin it to one thing? Most likely not. But what if we don't look at it as it has to be one thing, but an overall degeneration of health and a degeneration of a child's health because they are much smaller and do not have the immune systems fully developed even until they're at least 2 years old. And even at that, they may only weigh about 30 pounds. Certainly, the underdeveloped organs such as the liver and kidneys and even the lymphatic system is not going to be to the same degree as an adult, which means that if we're already accumulating toxins at such a young age, there should be no wonder why we have about 25% of children are overweight. Why about that same number, that same percentage, about 25% of children are on some type of pharmaceutical drug. We've seen autism skyrocket over just the past decade. All of these things should be taken into account. And now, for the very first time, we see that at least, hopefully, a jury of our peers is holding a company that has so much power accountable for the product that they're creating. And yes, it is used predominantly on what's called genetically modified organisms. They're not even foods anymore. This is the thing. We think so lightly. We brush it aside. And really, in my practice, again, we get to work with thousands and thousands of people. It's truly a blessing to be able to work with that many people. And because of that, we can see, though, a lot of times they don't want to buy organic. It costs more. And a lot of men in my practice, and I am a man, so I understand it, they dismiss it as, it's no big deal. No big deal to buy the conventional berries versus the organic berries. No big deal, right? Well, there is. And we're showing you that right now. It's not just about the GMO corn, right? And the canola oil. Those things matter. They truly do. And the reason is there's even more pesticide used with those items. But as you're about to see, because I'm going to give you a food list of a lot of these items, that we really can't take chances anymore. The environment we live in is far too polluted. We have heavy metals. We have mercury in fish. We have metals in things like spirulina and chlorella. We are being literally poisoned systematically on a multifaceted level all across the world. Well, what can we do about that? I've spoken about this many times, and I want you to listen to my previous podcasts on how to do a functional medicine detox, because I don't want you to just do it. I want you to understand why you have to do it. It's not an option anymore. It's honestly not. I wish it was. And you certainly don't have to use the Dr. Cabral detox. I want you to choose a functional medicine detox from a true functional medicine company. Please don't choose the latest and greatest startup from Silicon Valley that's promoting some type of, cure-all. That's not what I want. I want you to go with one of the big companies, one of the big functional medicine-based brands. And if you don't feel the Dr. Cabral detox is right for you, then that's okay, because there are others. But what I want you to do is begin to remove a lot of these chemicals from your body. And I want you to do it just as systematically as you're being infiltrated with them, right? And you can take a toxicity test. I mean, we'll try to link up the toxicity test today in the show notes as well. That's all the show notes today is going to be at stephencabral.com/930. I'm going to link up the CNN article. I'm going to link up the World Health Organization article. I'll link up the Guardian article. And I'm going to link up at least one more for you, EcoWatch article. Okay, so again, these are multiple companies. They don't know each other, all talking about the same thing. But pick your favorite outlet. Like, if you like Fox, then great, go to Fox. If you like CNN, I don't even know the other media outlets because honestly, I don't watch any of them. I'm sure they're all great. I have no doubt. I have no doubt in my mind. And I'm being basically tongue-in-cheek there. But, pick your favorite one, and you'll find their take on this as well. So, feel free to do that too. But the facts are the facts, that a jury awarded a man, Mr. Johnson, with $289 million. Now, what can you say? Is that a lot of money, not a lot of money? I don't know. Would you give $289 million for your life? I certainly wouldn't. I mean, would his two sons give $289 million instead of their dad? I doubt that. I really do. And this is happening to people all across the world because this spray, this Roundup spray, is used in the United States. It's being used in Mexico, and it's being used in other countries as well, where the U.S. and companies like Monsanto can actually grow food and then have it shipped back to the U.S. That's the problem, is that just because it may be even not coming from the United States, it still may be sprayed. What I want to do is simply to raise awareness, okay? Many other health practitioners are raising awareness. All we're looking to do is for you to do your best and begin to reduce your consumption and the spraying of your own lawn with chemicals such as these. Because the more that you are exposed to it, whether it's at a golf course or whether it's your front lawn or back lawn or whatever it might be, your neighbors, right? Is that if they are spraying, you have no control over your neighbor's lawn, right? But you could ask them when they're spraying weed killer, could you please let me know? You have the right to do whatever you choose to do. Because there are organic varieties. You can use another company. But they have the right to do whatever they choose to do. That's basically the problem, right? If someone wants to smoke and you're outside, they can smoke right next to you, right? And they can blow smoke around all they want, although that's a known cancer-causing carcinogen as well. Well, so is this weed killer. And that's the problem. So you can nicely ask your neighbor, hey, when the next time you're spraying, no big deal, even though it is a big deal, would you mind letting me know? I just want to make sure that we keep the windows closed for a little while just so we don't get any of that in our house. Or however you want to phrase it. I'm not the best of those things. I lack a lot of tact when it comes to those specific topics. I'm certainly not the best person at that. I would probably ask someone else to ask for me. But what I would say is this, is that limit your exposure. That's it. And the easiest and best way to do that on a daily basis is to watch out what you consume and your children consume in terms of food. This is just so vitally important. It goes well beyond the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. And if you don't know what those are, please tune in. Go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. And all you need to do is type in Dirty Dozen into the search bar. I want you to get used to using that search bar. And the reason is that there are now 930 podcasts, 930 functional medicine, naturopathic, bioregulatory, state-of-the-art, really natural medicine that target in on one topic every single podcast. And I go back and I do not repeat topics. So like just the other day, I was thinking of a podcast topic because I wanted to share with you all of the different types of nutrients that you get from different colored vegetables. The red and orange vegetables, the white vegetables, the yellow vegetables, the blue-purple vegetables, all the different colors. So it's like, people need to know about this because when they're on these really low-carb diets for a long period of time or they're on keto-based diets, they're missing out on all of the different types of antioxidants, anthocyanins, phytochemicals, in a positive way, phyto meaning plant-based nutrients, phytonutrients, that are helping us to prevent cancer, to prevent disease. And when you eliminate them from your diet because you're going keto donuts and keto ice cream and keto cupcakes and keto whatever, you're missing out on the one thing that we know that helps to prevent cancer, which is produce. I mean, that's why it blows my mind. I know that a low-carb diet helps people to lose weight, at least initially. I've been using it now for 20 years in my practice. You don't use it forever, and you certainly don't have to take it to keto. Like, it doesn't have to go that far. And if you want to do it, well, then at least make it cyclical. But you have to get the produce back in your diet. So going back to that, but I didn't do that show. Why? Because I did a podcast in the past on exactly that. I did the colors of vegetables and what they mean. So if you go back to these previous podcasts, you will just do it slowly, because again, you don't need to do it all tomorrow. If you do it slowly, if you listen to the day's podcast and one more from a previous, going back from whatever show you want to start at, you will then get a naturopathic, a true natural health. I'd say even more of a true natural health perspective that's integrative, that looks at everything. Because again, for me, it's like, well, how do I keep myself healthy? How do I keep my family healthy? How do I keep my 2 daughters healthy? How do I keep my dog healthy, right? I mean, dogs and animals have cancer rates that have never been seen before in the history of the animal itself. That, it blows my mind. But again, the correlation is right in front of us. It's all of the top 10 toxins I talked about in the rain barrel effect. And one of this big one is called glyphosate, or this Roundup weed killer. So now that I've given you the basis point for that, and you understand that this study was just done, and let me see if I can get it for you. This is in Time magazine. Everyone's saying it, right? Everyone is saying it, and it's hard to believe, right? Because a company with who even knows how many hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe $1 trillion, but everyone's slowly coming up. They're afraid to say anything, but slowly coming out. And it says this, that glyphosate, the core ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup herbicide, in levels found in the human bloodstream, have spiked by more than 1,000% in the last 2 decades. And they're showing, this is what they're showing, that it's even going into a child's bloodstream from the mother before that child is even born. And I spoke about this. I spoke about it in the rain barrel effect. I spoke about it on many videos before as well, that there was a study done, and it shows, they only studied 400 toxins, that's it, that over 272 toxins, that was the average, was found in fetal cord blood and in the unborn child. Imagine if they tested at least the 77,000 chemicals that we know about. How many would be in there, right? Are we giving the next generation of children even a chance? We know now that they're going to be the first generation, this generation being born, to not outlive their parents, meaning to not live to the same age that their parents got to. We may actually see a reduction in age span or lifespan. I personally don't believe that, because we are keeping people alive longer, but the problem is this. They're starting on pharmaceutical drugs at a younger age. Why are they starting at a younger age? Because people are more toxic. That is the bottom line. It truly is. When your body is struggling to survive, we get immune-based imbalances. We refer to them as autoimmune-based issues. But are they truly autoimmune-based issues? Or really are they issues of a disequilibrium, of a dis-ease in the body through multiple systems? And that's why it's so difficult right now as a conventional medicine specialist to help people. If you are a GI specialist and you specialize in digestion and acid reflux, well, if you're not also a specialist in endocrinology, you're not going to understand how someone with higher cortisol levels or higher levels of stress could lead to more lower esophageal sphincter issues, to lead to more achalasia-based issues, to lead to more stomach acid, and to lead with a weakening of peristaltic movement, potentially leading to SIBO, candida overgrowth, or any type of IBS symptom. Because if you are a specialist, you miss the holistic viewpoint of how the body works. Okay, I'm going to move aside from my rant right now, and I will start it back up another day. I think you get the point. There are multiple websites. Everyone is now in agreement. We need to be careful of this cancer-causing chemical, this carcinogen that's in everything from, like I talked about, the Cheerios that most children eat because they're cheap and easy, right? Kids love them. They're in everything from our chocolate chip cookies. And they're even in things from Ritz crackers at a very, very high level. Now, Ritz cracker is not genetically modified, right? But what happens is massive amounts of spray are going into these grains and these crops, wheat products, you name it. So let's go over it right now. What are some of the foods, the most commonly sprayed foods that use glyphosate that we absolutely should go organic and non-GMO, but also non-conventional? Conventional makes it sound like it's this great thing. Oh, here's your conventional produce over here. Well, here's the problem. Conventional is essentially synonymous now with poisoned, sprayed. If all you have to do is look up pesticide spraying fields on Google Images, you will see men and women in hazmat suits. Hazmat, meaning they can't let this stuff touch their body, and that's okay for us to eat? Right, there's multiple photos in my book that I didn't make up. And on these fields, there are literally signs with skull and crossbones that say, do not pass, do not enter. They have to be put there because they know that these chemicals, if exposed to it, and you're not in a hazmat suit, could cause dis-ease in the body. Okay, let's go over them now. We want to avoid the primary genetically modified foods. That includes all soy, all corn, and all canola. Approximately 90 to 93% of all of those foods I just mentioned there, soy, corn, and canola, are genetically modified. Here's what they don't tell you. Those foods are then fed to other animals. What does that mean? Well, we have cows, right? We have cattle. We're drinking their milk, right? That's why dairy is one of those not health products that I talk about all the time. It's not a health product. It's not a health food. Your children don't eat it, cow's milk. You don't need cow's milk. Humans don't need cow's milk. You'll be healthier and better off because of it. I can back that up with thousands of food sensitivity tests that you're welcome to test as well. You never have to believe me. You don't have to believe me, and I'm okay with that. And I'm probably even happier if you don't, because then you'll start to look into the research yourself. You'll see that there's food sensitivities to the IgG protein, such as casein and cow's milk. You'll also see, though, that these animals, and this goes to the meat itself, has been fed conventional-based grains and soy and corn. And the canola oil that most of our foods are fried in these fast food places also contain GMO canola. The other problem is this. A lot of the pastries and cookies and any type of sugar or chewing gum or soft drinks contain high fructose corn syrup. Well, guess where the corn syrup comes from? Corn, right? Genetically modified corn. Well, what about a lot of the protein bars also that we eat? And what about the muffins and the pastries and the little treats that we like to get when we're grabbing a coffee or a tea? Same thing. Unless that says 100% organic, it most likely contains some of this pesticide or byproduct of the pesticide-based crops. Okay? Really, really important to look at. A lot of times when you see items such as maltodextrin, or you see natural flavors, or you see corn syrup, if you don't trust the company, if you don't know the company, those could easily be corn-based products, so extracts of corn that come from GMO-based materials. Now, everything in a good quality functional medicine company will actually say non-GMO, or it will say organic if there's any type of food-based product in that. So very, very important to look at. Another big thing is this, is that the wheat, the barley, the buckwheat, the millet, the oats, the rye, the sorghum, all of these items, right? Even the ancient grains like teff and your popcorn, you need to make sure that it says organic. Very, very simply put, it needs to say organic. If not, assume that it's been sprayed because it's one of the most common crops to spray. Now, why are companies, they know that these things are poisonous, but why are they spraying them so much? The reason is simple. It's honestly simple. Because if you keep the bugs away, you also have a higher yield of crop, and that's what it's all about. But not only that, you're also then getting kickbacks a lot of times, like as in corn, from the government or other subsidies as well. So it's kind of one hand feeds the other. All right, really important. Check out the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. I won't go over all of those today. But if you're eating items that you can't really peel the skin, such as a lot of the berries or strawberries, items like that, and they're sprayed, meaning like, again, what would be easier? Well, of course, you could peel a banana, right? So it's not as important. But think about this. If you can't peel the strawberry, if you can't peel the blueberry, and it's sprayed with pesticides, it's right into that skin, which means you're going to be consuming that no matter how hard you try to wash it. Really, really important as well. Try to also make sure that your nut milk that you're getting, so if you're using the almond milks or the coconut milks, try to make sure that it's organic. Now, I know these shells, these nuts come in shells, but still, I just don't like to take any chances. I just think you're better off not having all these things cracked and not having it even be cross-contaminated. That's important for me as well. Really, really important. So I'm going to leave you with those items today, but I want you to start to get to read your labels a little bit better. Look for items such as cornstarch or the maltodextrins or any byproducts of the high fructose corn syrup. Any even thing like it could be beets. Beets is GMO as well. We look at palm oil can be GMO. Even salmon now, right? Salmon, GMO salmon. How insane is that? They were genetically modifying a fish, so it's not even a fish anymore. It's a genetically modified organism. But why? Well, that fish now can also be fed what? Soy and corn. Fish aren't meant to eat soy and corn. When would they ever be able to have access to that? That does not make the least amount of sense. But the problem is, these food that we're eating, these food that we're feeding our children, they do not cause a severe reaction typically the first time. What happens is they build up over weeks and months and years, and then our children get things like psoriasis and eczema and leaky gut, and they get IBS, and they have learning-based issues. In adults, we have mood issues, and we have depression, and we have all sorts of other issues such as autoimmune problems going on. And we never blame it on our food source, and we never blame it on the total toxic load. Check out another podcast on that. Go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Type in total toxic load or total body burden. I speak about this in the Rain Barrel Effect. 100% of all profits go directly to charity from that book. Today's podcast, books like the Rain Barrel Effect, all of these items are meant to really educate all of us. I need it as well. I need to reinforce this, that when I go into the grocery food store, I need to make that best possible choice that I can. I need to go to the farmer's market. I need to make sure that my food is healthier so the food keeps me healthy, keeps me on track, and also keeps my family on track as well. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful. I just think it's a sobering reminder of the world that we live in. I'm a positive person. I like to look at the glass as not only half full, but overflowing, right? Overflowing with goodness and greatness. But that's why I see it that way, and I see all these farmers out there trying to produce organic. Well, let's go out. Let's support them, right? But by supporting them, we're helping ourselves. So stay positive, stay healthy, but also, don't overlook these things. They are important because they're not going to affect you today, but they may just come to fruition tomorrow, the next week, and the next month. So let's keep ourselves healthy. Let's also pass this information on to others. Thank you so much for tuning in today's Cabral Concept. I truly appreciate each and every one of your listens. Take care. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.